Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of SoTellUs Time. Today is going to be a lot of fun. We are going to be talking about money and happiness. Do they go hand in hand? Can you put them together and create the ultimate life? Can you only have one or the other? This is a question that goes through every entrepreneur's mind because we are all going through ups and downs. And There are times that we're just like, on both sides. We may have the perfect life, but we're lacking the money. We may have all the money, but we're lacking that perfect life, relationships, friends, family, all of that. You know, it's funny because if you've ever heard that song, that country song by Chris Jansen, it's Buy Me a Boat. And he's talking about, man, I wish I had a rich uncle that had kicked the bucket and left me a bunch of money. And it says, you know, people say it can't buy happiness, but it can buy me a boat. And I guess to him, that's happiness, is having a boat. But my thing is, I'm like, you know what? There's also that saying of mo money, mo problems. More money doesn't always mean that you are going to be happy. In fact, think about the lottery winners. It's funny because it had to have been over 10 years ago or so that they had this show that was following up on lottery winners' lives. Yep. And it showed that basically most of them ended up worse off than before they had won the money. Some of them killed themselves. Some of them were murdered. Like one guy, for instance, why would you kill yourself when you won $100 million? Well, people were mailing him letters talking about how their child was dying of cancer and how this and that, and they needed money for surgeries and they needed everything. And it was just these sob stories, and it drove him bananas. He would sit there and read them, and he couldn't help everybody. And so it just drove him bonkers, and he ended up killing himself. And then there was another one on that episode of where this family, this guy wins the lottery, and he has a daughter and a son, and he buys them a really well-known and popular restaurant. Yes. And it's doing really well. Like it's super popular. It's basically running itself. He just buys it. I mean, chefs and everything. Okay. People are still running it. They don't have to do anything. And he gives them, I can't remember what it was. He gives them a couple $100,000, I think, each, and then gives them this restaurant and says, hey, listen, from the profits of this, you'll never have to work again. You'll be taken care of. Well, his kids get caught trying to hire a hitman to kill them, to kill him, because they'll get the money, the rest of his money, when he dies.
Yeah, they took the, couple $100,000 he gave them to try and pay for the hitman.
Yeah. I mean, and each one, I swear it was going to be something crazy. Like each one of them was going to get like 10 grand a month off of the restaurant. Right. So like $120,000 a year plus, I mean, it was a couple $100,000 up front, I think. And it could have even been more than that, but it wasn't enough. They were literally not going to have to worry about life. And they just got to live, but it didn't matter. They wanted more. Well, guess what? More money, more problems. See, a study done by Princeton actually tells us that money does increase happiness to a certain point. But then beyond that, it doesn't really create any kind of, happy increase in happiness that they can track.
Yes.
And look at. So it was up to $75,000. They found that up to $75,000, there was a huge increase in happiness. Yep. But beyond that, they couldn't even measure the happiness going above and beyond that. See, I actually had it happen to me where, being young, growing up as an entrepreneurial mindset, seeing my dad out there working and hustling and, getting on stages with some of the biggest names in the game and doing all this cool stuff. I mean, I was just like always, traveling in the summers with him, not always because I wanted to, reluctantly. Sometimes I was traveling with him in the summers and listening to, all these amazing people, Mark Victor Hansen and, some of the greatest names in the game when it comes to books and motivation and, self-help and all of that. I wanted to really, hit it hard and go after it. And I was not an academic, academia was not my forte, right? I was like, I'm an educated guy, I mean, no, that was me. I'm an educated guy. I was not an educated guy. Troy holds like, I don't know, 2 degrees, 3 degrees, 100 degrees. I don't even know.
A couple. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got a couple. He's a very smart guy. We come from the same tree, but we fell on different sides of it. Troy's got the brains and I've got the beauty.
That's right.
So I wanted to hit the ground running, and I really wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew that. I wanted to work hard and make more money, because the idea of working hard and making more money is the reason that, you know, I want to get up in the mornings and everything. And so I knew that I wasn't going to go and become a doctor, because besides it's gross. I don't want to deal with that stuff, you know, but school was not my forte. I was never going to make it through. So I, you know, start this company, and I'm running 100 miles an hour, and I'm working a full-time job, and I'm working a part-time job, and I'm trying to build this company. And I'm just running 100 miles an hour, and I've told this story before, but I'm sleeping at the office. I had this lofty goal that I was going to be a multimillionaire by the age of 25. And so I had this lofty goal, and I was just going, and I was sleeping at the office. I wasn't coming home. In the meantime, my wife, I think she was pregnant with our third at this time. I'm about 23. So at 20, I got 2 more years. I got to push hard, and I've got to be a multimillionaire. It's going to be awesome. It's gonna, you know, and that's what I thought I wanted. But we had a couple of kids in the meantime. We're pregnant with our third, and I am missing out on life. My wife calls me one day, and she says, you know what? She said, either you come home or you start sending some real money home. She needed something to comfort her at night, right?
Right.
Or I'm not going to be here the next time you show up. And it hit me, and I thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm like, it just all kind of came down at that moment. I realized, like, what am I doing this for? I'm doing this because I want to give her everything. I want to give my kids everything, which then, now that I'm, you know, 36 and a little bit more mature, giving our children everything is not a good idea. I had to learn that over time. But in my young mind, I thought, you know, I want to give them everything. I want to give them the best life. I want to do vacations and huge homes and live in a mansion and, you know, gated communities and Bentleys and, you know, all this kind of stuff, right? And I thought that was what happiness was all about. And it hit me in that moment that I was missing out on the greatest years of my kids' lives. Now, you know, I've got teenagers, so let me just re-say that. The young years were the greatest years of my kids' life, because teenagers are hard. Let me tell you, I love my kids, but I was missing out on it. And I was missing out on this gorgeous, beautiful young wife. And I'm like missing out on spending time with her. And it's like, because I'm always thinking about tomorrow. It's always about tomorrow, because I'm going to make more money tomorrow, and I'm going to get this goal tomorrow. But I was losing everything. And at the end of the day, I wasn't going to have anyone or anything to share this life that I thought I was building with. And it just dawned on me, and I thought, this is not what I need. This is not what I want. I don't need millions of dollars. I realized at 23, and I think I was actually pretty young. And I'm grateful that it happened. I'm grateful for my super strong wife, right? Because I was young enough that I said, it's time to shift. I don't need millions upon millions of dollars to be happy and live an amazing life. First off, I need my wife. I love my wife. Like, she is my best friend. I need her. So at the end of the day, if she's not there, then forget it. I wouldn't give up my wife for $1 billion, $1 trillion. You can't tell me I can be the next trillionaire tomorrow, but I got to give up Chelsea. Ain't gonna happen. No. Relationship, right. So much more important. And then my kids, so many fun years. We were just watching videos the other day of them as young little babies, and I was just like, oh my gosh. One of their favorite things, and one of my favorite things to do, was every Sunday I would grab one of them and I would put them on my chest, and I had this old crappy recliner. And you got to remember, when we first got married, I made like $700 a month, and rent was $710 a month. So I was $10 short every month, but I had this crappy recliner that I had bought from a yard sale that had stains on it and everything, but it was leather. So it's fine. I mean, it didn't have bugs, I'm sure, because it was leather. Bugs don't like leather. And I would put them on my chest, and I would take a nap every Sunday, and they would take a nap on my chest. And it was the most amazing thing. And I just thought, I can't give all this up. I do not want to give this up for money. And so I changed my mindset. It was about changing my mindset. So let's discuss a little bit why people think money makes them happier, and why it can improve happiness. It's just, we're going to get to why it's not ultimately the most important thing. But Troy, what are some of the reasons that money makes people happy, or can help make them happier?
Yeah, absolutely. So before I get into that, though, I wanted to, Trevor and I were having a conversation the other day, and, we were talking about this, and I was like, you know what? the thought came to my mind, if I just like busted my butt for the next 10 years, where could we be? What could this company do? Could I do $1 billion exit and all this kind of stuff? And, would I be willing to just put everything aside and do that work? Yeah. And then I thought about it and I'm like, wait, in the next 10 years, I have 3 kids. In the next 10 years, all of my kids will be out of the house.
Yeah.
And the answer is it wouldn't be worth it.
Totally.
Because why am I going to work super hard to create a life that my kids missed?
Exactly.
Right? And I missed them because I was building it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm going, yes, I'm super successful now. We've got all this money, and they're gone and they're on to their lives.
Well, yeah. And then have you built a relationship with your spouse?
Right.
That's going to last through this? No, all of a sudden the kids are gone and you look at each other like, well, who are you?
Yes, exactly. So, anyways.
and in 10 years, I'm still going to have 2 kids at home, because I got 5. So
that's right.
It's not even worth it, dude. I'm still going to have kids at home. Oh my gosh.
All right. So how does money help people be happier? So we were going through a study and there was a study that talked about some of this stuff. So we're going to talk about some of the ways that money can make you happier. And the first one was eliminating financial anxiety.
Yeah.
So people, that's one of the reasons why, they came up with that number of like $75,000, because at that point it felt like people could relieve some of their financial anxiety.
Absolutely.
They weren't as stressed about it, and they were, so they could feel better and be a little bit happier. Now, if they doubled that, did that relieve even more?
Yeah, double? No.
Yeah, no, it didn't relieve double. That was the whole point of it, was it, your happiness increased to a certain point, and then it had very little effect beyond that, right? Yeah. So eliminating financial anxiety. So how does it do that? Well, paying off, debt that you have, being able to have extra money to invest, for your future. That makes you feel better and happier because you have a future.
And so, and let's clarify too, who we're talking to right now are people who are more financially well off. People who have, I'm pretty sure somebody listening to the podcast today is very financially well off and yet still feels some sort of emptiness.
Right.
Still feels like they have this, they're missing something in life. So that's who we're talking to right now, of why do they, why can money make you feel better? But then how can you use it to fulfill more a little bit?
Yes, exactly. So exactly. This is for those who have a little bit of extra right now.
Because some of our listeners are going, I don't have any money to invest.
Right. And we're going to address that too.
Yeah, we'll get to you.
So investing in your future, right? So making yourself feel secure. Another thing would be like rental properties. Again, that's another investment that, makes you feel secure that you've got this. It's an asset and it's going to help you in your retirement.
Yeah.
So eliminating that financial anxiety usually makes people happier.
Yeah.
The next thing is a lot of times what people do with money is they'll buy experiences.
Yes.
And I feel like this is a bigger part of our society now.
Oh my gosh.
Than it ever was, because you have these like young kids that are like going into debt to have these experiences.
They're credit card hacking.
Exactly. It's like, they're going into debt.
The company's winning.
Yeah, exactly. So, and so it could be as big as like, oh, I'm going to go and stay on a yacht, or I'm going to stay in this like Uber mansion, for the weekend with my friends.
Yeah. Well, think about the Insta influencers, right?
Right.
There are literally people who YouTube and Insta life their travels around the world with their families. And yes, some of these people have made it and some of them are making money by doing it and everything like that. But like, this is what the rest of us see and think is like, well, I want to do that too.
Right.
And we start comparing ourselves and then we start getting down on ourselves, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you're looking at them and they're doing awesome vacations. Yes. They're doing like going to these crazy parties.
Yes.
So they're buying experiences in their life that they wouldn't be able to have normally without the money to pay for it.
Right.
So that's another way to do it. Another thing that gives people a lot of happiness is, giving to charity.
Which is awesome.
Yes, which is absolutely awesome.
Absolutely.
Now, sometimes people give to charity less about, actually giving to the charity and more about like getting recognition for giving to the charity. Yeah. But again, that's kind of a different topic. But a lot of times that's what you do. Or they do it for a tax write-off.
Yeah, let me tell you something. I give a big portion, and this is not to boast, I give a big portion of my income to charity. and I have never gone and sat at a ball and had a special dinner because of this and been recognized on stage because of this. Troy, you're the same way. You do the exact same thing that I do. And I'm just saying, at the end of the day, what are you really doing? What are you trying to do with it? And I'm not saying there's anything bad. Yes, we need write-offs. We're all business owners. To all my very wealthy listeners out there, it's totally cool. Like, I get it. But again, that's, if you're doing it that way, you're not really fulfilling anything. You're not filling that hole. And so if you are wealthy and you're feeling like there's something missing and you go, well, I give to charities. But are you giving to them because you really want to give to charities, or did you start the charity and you're funneling money into it and then, being able to, anyways, there's a lot of reasons why. So just stop and take a look.
But doing it for the right reason can definitely bring happiness into your life.
Yeah.
And then another one that's really popular, and I see this all the time with, people that are, wealthier now, is, they love to help their loved ones.
Yeah.
So just the other day I was on Instagram and I watched this guy give a house to his mom.
That's awesome.
She'd never owned a house before.
That's amazing.
So he gave her a house. I've watched, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. Every year it seems like he gives away a car or something to one of his family members.
Super cool.
Super cool guy, right? Yeah. So that's something that brings him happiness. Because could he buy a really cool car for himself? Yeah, he has probably a ton of cool cars. But does each one of those cars make him happier because he has another car? At what point do you go, yeah, you know what, I have 10 cars and buying the 11th one isn't really going to make a difference?
Like, who is it? Jay Leno that's got like that huge garage.
Yes.
It's just amazing. So cool. I mean, honestly, that is super cool. And I hope to have a garage someday like that. That would be awesome. But that's not, I can tell you, he's not driving all those cars. B, they're just sitting there. And C, at the end of the day, that's not what's bringing joy into his life. Not joy that lasts and really makes you feel good.
Yeah, he's a car collector and he likes doing that.
Sure.
Right? But how good would he feel giving a car to somebody else? And who knows? Maybe he does. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say.
Well, let me put it this way: like at the end of the day, what brings real more joy? Like I bought myself another car, but because of that, I lost a relationship with my daughter. Like, it's a checks and balances type of thing. What are you giving up in order to focus on the money?
Right.
And when you focus on the money, then you have to focus on buying things to, fill this hole and void in your life. And that's not everyone. We have a perfect example of a good friend who makes a ton of money and he's got a great family and he travels with them and they do amazing things and it's so great. But we're just trying to get your minds. I don't want anyone getting upset at us right now because, you do really well and maybe you don't have a family, or you do really well and you do have a family and you feel like you kind of got life figured out. We're just helping expand your minds. We're wanting you to think in different ways. And remember, our listeners are all in different places in life. And so we got to talk to everybody and we got to help people to realize that, there's more to life than just money bringing you happiness.
Exactly.
So keep listening. Come on.
All right. So definitely, helping loved ones out, whether it's buying them a home, a car, whatever it might be, helping pay for their education, that can bring happiness into your life.
That's awesome.
So that's something that you can do with your money that's going to be, a good cause.
Absolutely. Like think about, Ron Howard, our dad, a lot of you know who he is. My mom and dad love to do vacations with the family.
Yes.
They've even incorporated to where now it's like they'll do a family vacation with all the grandkids, and then they'll do another family vacation with just their kids and their spouses, like my wife and Troy's wife. And it's been so amazing. And so Ron is in retirement now, and he's doing very well in retirement. He's worked really hard his whole life. He's made a lot of money, and he can do these wonderful things. So this brings true joy and happiness to him in his life and in my mom's life. And it also brings joy and happiness in our lives because we're creating memories together.
Yep.
So yes, money is buying him and us all some happiness.
Yep, exactly. So, but again, like Trevor said, it doesn't always bring happiness. So, and you kind of had a story you wanted to share with that, Trevor.
Yeah. We had a good friend. Back when I wasn't making as much money and was struggling a little bit more, he was a multimillionaire. He was very wealthy. bought all sorts of cool stuff, had the coolest cars, had a huge house, had the coolest motorcycles, had boats, had everything. I mean, it was just super cool. Took me to dinners that I could never think of affording back then, like all sorts of fun things, right? And in fact, offered to take me on a really expensive trip with him. I didn't do it, but it was like no big deal. It was no big deal for him to just throw money at the situation, right? To like, and he truly enjoyed. It was no strings attached. He liked, he was a good friend of mine, wanted to spend this money on me and everything like that. But one thing that I realized is, so he'd be like, it would be like every day, it'd be like, hey, let's go get dinner after work, man. Let's go get some dinner. And I'd be like, oh, you know, I haven't really been home lately. I haven't seen the kids in Chelsea. And oh, come on, you know, real quick, we'll just go for like an hour or something. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we'd go. And of course, he'd want to buy me dinner and he'd want to buy, you know, drinks and all sorts of fun things and appetizers and desserts and everything. And of course, an hour would turn into 2 or 2 to 3 and whatever. And then it would be like, hey, you want to go do something else? You want to go? And I'd be like, I can't. I got to get home. I got to go home. And then I would drive home. And by the time I got home, he'd be calling me. And then he'd want to talk to me for 3 and 4 and 5 more hours that night. And it took me a little while to realize, I'm going, man, how does he have so much time and everything? Well, here's the deal. He had a ton of money, tons of money that he could throw at anything. And he threw it at all of his friends. And I'm not saying that's why they were his friends. I'm just saying he did that. And he did it because he truly enjoyed it, not in a bad way. He just would throw money at these things. And people loved that. It was great. I mean, it was like really nice. But at the end of the day, when he would go home to his big house, in his fancy cars, in his garage with motorcycles and boats and cars and a super cool pool and a gym. He had his own home gym, but I'm not talking about in his house, in a room. I'm talking he had a built in the back, his own gym and everything. He would go home to a big empty house and he was all alone. And that's why it was always like, hey, if he wasn't with me, he was with another friend. If he wasn't with another friend, he was trying to go on a trip and take friends with him. It was just, he was trying to fill the void that he had in his life. He had, I don't want to say chosen money, but he had focused on money and wealth and growing this instead of focusing on, you know, incorporating people into his life. And now it was almost like at this point he was having to buy people into his life, and he wasn't. Yeah. But I mean, maybe I wonder in his mind if he kind of felt that way a little bit, always paying for everybody's dinners and stuff like that. And none of us wanted it. We were all like, no, we'll do this. And it just was a big eye opener for me to go, you know, he looks like he's got it all. And especially, man, if there would have been Instagram at that time, oh my gosh, people would have he would have had 1 billion followers because they would have thought he lived the life. But again, behind the scenes, I've talked about it before, like Chris Farley, right? The guy looked like he had everything, and yet he felt so alone. And that's the case with a lot of these celebrities and these people who are just so loved and so surrounded, and they look like they have the life, they have everything. But at the end of the day, they really, truly feel alone and they feel depressed. Yep. So I just think, you know, again, money doesn't buy happiness always. Money can help increase happiness. But at the end of the day, you know, you got to be happy on the inside too.
Yes. So let's talk about that. So how can you be happy now? So maybe you're not, you know, financially set yet. You're not making the money that you want to make. Yeah. But how can you still be happy right now in your life? Yeah. And I think first and foremost, you know, one of the best things you can do is basically, you know, take an assessment of your life and count the blessings that you already have in your life. Look at what you do have, not what you don't, and spend some time. Literally write down a list of like these are the blessings I have in my life. And I think you'll quickly realize that you have a lot. Yeah. You know, but there are other ways to do it too, right? So again, we'll take those same steps that we talked about, you know, ways that the rich use their money to bring them happiness. And how can you do it, you know, if you're on a limited budget? That's the first one was eliminate financial anxiety. Again, if you don't have enough money, if you're stressed about money, it's hard to be happy. Right. So how can you do that if you aren't making a ton of money? Well, one thing you can do is you can reduce your non-essential bills, right? Yeah. We all have things that we spend a little bit of money on that maybe we don't need. Yeah. But
do we really need 346 channels of TV, or do you watch the same 10?
Exactly. So look at the things in your life that maybe you don't need to spend money on,
Sure.
and reduce those so that you feel less stress coming from your financial situation. Another thing is, if you are, making enough money, save a percentage of your income.
Yes.
And a lot of people just don't do this. It's really scary how many people don't have a savings at all. And that is stressful.
Yes.
So even if it's a small amount, if you just put a small amount every single month into a savings account, I promise you it is going to reduce that stress because you're going to know, look, if I have a bad month, I can dip into my savings.
Absolutely. And I mean, I just heard a commercial the other day that was on the radio talking about did your AC unit go out? Well, you can finance that now. You can get a loan through. Did your car break down? Well, you can get a loan to fix your car. Like that's scary.
Yes.
That's scary. Even when I was in my, poorest of times, my wife and I were both working and everything like that. We were still trying to put pennies. I mean, and I'm not kidding. Change. We were literally saving bottles of change because there were things that would come up. I drove the crappiest car in the world and the alternator would break every other week. It was just horrible. And so but we were always, even then, we were trying to put something away so that we to finance fixing your car. That's harsh.
Yeah, exactly. We were the same way. I remember doing that too. We had a 5-gallon water jug that we threw money in.
Yeah.
And, initially, at the end of the year, that's what we used to buy Christmas presents for our kids.
Yeah.
And then as things got better, we kept doing that. But at the end of the year, we would take that money and we buy Christmas gifts for families in need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I remember the story. Okay. Didn't someone bring you guys a Thanksgiving dinner? Okay, let me tell you guys something. I want you guys to understand. We've been building our businesses for the last 20 years. We've been working really hard. And yes, today we're doing really, really well, but we have gone through some seriously hard times, just like every business owner does, and it's crazy because over the years, it's like, I remember one time sitting there going, man, I'm a young guy and I make more money than most of my dad's friends who are in their 50s and been working their whole lives. And then the very next year, it was just like, boom, everything crashed. And so we've had our ups and downs. And so let me tell you, Troy and I both have experienced. Troy can tell you about, he was an airline pilot. I don't know if everybody knows this. He was an airline pilot, commercial airline pilot, and he ended up losing that whole career. And so, that was his job, and that's what he thought he was going to do the rest of his life. And he was working this job that he had to stay at this little airport overnight, right? He had to work super late, it was overnights.
That was earlier. Yeah,
was that
was
earlier.
But yeah, so I lost my job as an airline pilot because of kidney stones. So I couldn't fly anymore.
Yeah, and
we had a brand new baby.
Yeah,
my son Parker, who was born preemie. He was 4 pounds.
Yep.
He had a cleft lip and palate. We had about $10,000 in surgeries coming up in the first 3 months of his life. And
you just lost your job.
I just lost my job as a pilot. And I'm going, okay, what am I going to do, right? And I remember it was around Thanksgiving rolled around. And this family that went to our church dropped off a box with a Thanksgiving dinner in it.
Yeah.
The turkey, all the stuff to make a Thanksgiving dinner. And I remember turning to my wife and I'm like, honey, why would they drop this off at our house? And she looked at me and she's like, 'cause we're poor. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I know we're poor, but we have family here, so we're just gonna go eat Thanksgiving dinner with our family.
Yeah.
Don't they know that? And she's like, yeah, but we're the poorest people at church. Yeah. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I'm our neighbor down the street, I know she just lost her job.
Yeah.
So I just picked the box up and we went down the street and we dropped the box on this lady's door, rang the doorbell and ran away.
Yeah.
And so we just basically re-gifted the gift, that dinner, because and again, it was so sweet of the people to do it.
Yes.
But I think the point was we were still super happy.
Yes.
Even though we were super poor, even though people were dropping food off at our door because they didn't want us to starve, we didn't think that I didn't think we were off that, it was that bad. There was somebody who needed it more. So
absolutely.
Anyway, so that's the thing is having the savings there, and that's one of the things we did. We had literally saved up food. So for 6 months, we lived off of what we call food storage, and because we couldn't afford anything at the grocery store, and we just ate food storage. Anyways, so we saved, but we were prepared for when that situation happened, right? Okay, let's keep going. Okay, buy experiences, right? We talked about, when you have a lot of money, you can buy great experiences and that'll make you happy. Well, you don't have to buy experiences if you don't have money. You can make experiences. Yes. And this is really important. So you can find inexpensive things to try and do that make you happy, right? So maybe it is, instead of going on a amazing vacation, you go on a hike, or you go to the beach, or you go camping in the woods. You do something that can make you happy that doesn't cost a lot of money, or something that your family would love to do that doesn't cost a lot of money.
And that's the thing. Okay, my kids, one of the things they still to this day, even my teenagers, beg is they love camping. They love camping, and my wife hates camping. She hates it. She thinks it's the worst thing in the world. And so, but that's the thing. Like, I've literally said to my kids, I'm like, do you want to go to Disneyland, or do you guys want to go camping? And it depends on their moods, right?
Yes.
Because if they're mad at mom for some reason, they're like, we want to go camping, But really, that's the thing, is they really do love to go camping, and it's cheap. It's easy. You go out there and you throw up some tents, and you cook some food, and you have s'mores, and you have some fun with your kids. I literally have done a camp out in my own backyard because we couldn't afford to actually go camping and have an additional meal or whatever, than what we had already planned for that month. So we just camped in the backyard.
Right. So you can create these amazing experiences with your family, with your loved ones, whatever it is, without having to spend a lot of money. Another one is it's awesome to be able to go out to a super nice restaurant and eat a great meal.
Yes.
That's amazing. But you don't have to do that. Like, you could literally, and my wife and I have done this before, where it's like, you know what, we're going to get some steaks, and we're going to cook the steaks, and we're going to make it all nice, and we're going to do the candles, we're going to get dressed up, and we're going to eat in our little house.
That's right.
And we're going to have a nice meal together. So, instead of going out and paying, $100 or $200 for a meal, learn how to cook an amazing meal.
Yeah.
And then just do that, because it's going to cost you a lot less money, but you can still have a great experience.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing is, and I love this one, leverage your friends and family. And what I mean by that is I remember my dad always taught me, when I was younger, I was like, Dad, how come we don't have like a boat or any of these things like that all of my friends have? Like, their families have boats and all these other crazy stuff, and we don't have those. Why is that? And my dad's like, look, he's like, I don't need to own a boat. Yeah. I just need to pay the gas for my friend's boat. That's right. And I can go out on a boat anytime I want. He goes, because my friends want to go out. They just don't want to drop $200 in gas. Yeah, every time. So instead of spending $40,000 on a boat, I can once a month or once every couple of months say, hey, buddy, let's go out on the boat and I'll pay the gas. And boom, we're out there. So again, you can have those amazing things, but you don't have to actually pay all the money for it. That's right. So leverage what your friends and family have and make it a good experience with them. Yes. So, all right, next one, give your time to charity. So instead of giving money to charity, if you don't have extra money to give your time. Volunteer at a charity you love. Yeah, absolutely. Right? One of the things my family loves to do is there's a charity called Feed My Starving Children. And you go to this place, and it's like a kitchen thing, and you basically sit there and you prep meals that are going to be sent off to, starving children. And my kids love doing that. If I had asked them to come into my kitchen and make dinner or prepare food for the evening, they'd be like, oh, come on, I don't want to do that. Mom cooks food. Why do I have to cook the food? But when they go somewhere else and they're, preparing and doing something for somebody else, it makes them feel so good inside. Yeah. So you don't have to, necessarily give money to charity. Just volunteer. Absolutely. Give your time. Honestly, a lot of these charities, that's what they would want. They want you to give of your time, energy, and effort. They need people to serve. Yes. They need people. They need bodies there. And they will tell you, if you don't have money, serving, helping us is just as good. Yes. And I promise you, especially if you have kids and you involve your kids in that, it's going to make a huge impact on them. And it's going to make them better people for doing it. Absolutely. All right. Last one is help. Instead of like buying things for loved ones, just help your loved ones. Spend time with them. Yes. I can tell you right now, as a father of 3 kids, my kids would much rather get my time than get money from me. Absolutely. My kids never ask me for money. It's crazy. Like never. They literally never ask me for money.
Yeah.
What they will ask me for is, hey, Dad, can you play this with me? Hey, Dad, can you do this with me? Hey, Dad, can you go with me over here and do this? So what they want is my time. They don't care about the money. And that's the way it should be. So you know, spending the time with them is going to be way more valuable than any dollar amount you can give them. And then on top of that, just spending time with them, help them out with a project. Mm-hmm. If you want to feel good about yourself, if you want to feel happier, forget about your problems for 2 seconds and go help someone out who is less fortunate than you. Yeah. And I promise you, you will feel better and happier, and you will not feel so bad about your situation. It will put life into perspective. Oh, yeah. So look for ways to help your loved ones and other people around you with your time versus money.
Absolutely. And then think about that. Like we do when my kids were in scouts, right?
Yep.
My sons, they would do the car derby thing, the race car derby, and you had to make the race car. And it's so funny because I remember my dad was not a handyman at all when it came to anything like woodworking or anything like that. So if it didn't involve duct tape and super glue, we weren't doing it. So I remember we go over to his friend's house and he says, hey, here's my woodworking shop and build your car with your son and it's gonna be great and everything like that. And what's funny is I'm pretty sure it still was just a square block at the end of it. We kind of got those wheels on there. We got, and it went down the track, and halfway down the track, the very first run, it literally fell apart. Like the wheels came off and everything like that. And I remember being a little bit like, oh man, but I still think back to how fun it was for Dad and I to go and build this car together and be like, hey, well, what's this piece of equipment? What does this do? He's like, I don't know. And we would laugh and we would like try to like mess with stuff. And I think we ended up getting hurt. In fact, like we were hurting ourselves. And so we're like, forget it. Let's just keep this thing a square and we'll just send this sucker down, Yes. But doing that with my boys, that's the other thing. Like my boys have so much fun. If I just go toss a football with them, it means the world to them. If I play a video game, which I very rarely do, I hate video games, but if I play a video game with them, they love it. Like giving time, energy, and effort is always better than money. That's just my opinion. So going back real quick, just to kind of go over it, for all of our listeners who have made it, they've got a lot of money, but maybe you still feel like you're missing something in life. Maybe you should look at the people that are around you. Who have you excluded? What relationships have you lost over the years? What relationships have had distance put between them? Who can you reach out to? Because you know what? At the end of the day, I would give up all of everything. I would give up all the money in the world for my family. And I don't just mean my kids and my wife. I mean for Troy, for Dad, for my mom, for any of my, when Ron was working with us and Troy and Ron would go on an event, I'd get on my knees and I'd pray and I'd say, God, bring them back to me. Please bring them back, because I don't care that we got key man policies. I don't need millions. I need my dad and my brother, because I can't do what I do. They make me better. So think about that. Who have you lost maybe over the years or lost touch with that maybe at this point it's time to reach out and it's time to build that bridge again and say sorry where we need to say sorry. And I promise that you will just be able to do more with your money to help the people that you love and the people that are around you, and you will find true happiness. And then for the people who are just in the depths of it, right? Like struggling, just working every day, and you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders. I promise you it gets better. You just have to keep going. And here's the thing is, if you can't find happiness in this very moment, you will not be able to find happiness because you have money.
Yes.
You have to learn to love the journey, ups and downs, pains, aches, all of it. It hurts sometimes. It hurts really bad sometimes. But you know what? There is always something good. I was just talking with one of our affiliates the other day, a partner of ours, that we were saying how the grass is always greener on the other side, and he and I are in two opposite spaces right now. And he's going, man, I wish I was a little bit more like you. And I'm going, man, I wish I was a little bit more like you. And you know what? It's funny because we're both wanting to be a little bit more like the other person. It's not, hey, it might be green, but it's just as hard to mow. Let me tell you that. Thanks, John. That was John's little thing. So I know John listens. That was you, buddy. And here's how it goes down, guys. When we do really well now. We've spent 20 years building our business and we do just fine. and we try to serve and love and share and help other people. And that's what we want to spend our times doing. And that's why we love doing the podcast, to help other business owners out there that are, going through the grind or need to shift their mindset or just need some ideas or fresh ideas or something from a different perspective. But I recently, about almost 3 years ago, we started building our dream house, the home that we wanted to raise our children in. And we wanted it to be perfect, and it was a lot of money, and we were really excited. But in the meantime, while this was being built, it was going to take quite a while, almost a year to build the house. My in-laws offered that we could come stay in their guest house. Now, you got to imagine their guest house with me. I have 5 children, okay? And so there's 7 of us. And this guest house is 2-bedroom. It's got to be like, 700 square feet. It's tiny. And I'm thinking, we're going to kill each other. I'm going to murder these kids. Like, there is no way we can sleep this close to each other. That, like, we had the baby in the room with us at the time. And then we had a bunk bed and a mattress on the floor. And we were just all crammed into this little space. And it was funny because my wife and I, Chelsea and I, were laying there one night in bed, and the baby's over here kind of tossing and turning. And we're just kind of whispering. And she says, this is kind of great. And I said, I was just thinking the same thing. I was literally just thinking, this is probably bottom. This is probably rock bottom right here. If my life fell apart.
This is the worst it could get.
This is the worst it could get. Like, if as long as, my children are okay, my wife's okay, not losing anyone or anything like that. But like, if my work fell apart, this whole world of work that I've built for the last 20 years fell apart, and I had to start all over tomorrow. I had to go work at McDonald's or something just to pay the bills. And we had to move into the guest house, 7 of us crammed into this little 2-bedroom guest house. It would be awesome. We were still so happy. In fact, we played more games in that house. We live in this big house now, and I feel like I don't see my kids sometimes. I go, where are all our kids? What is going on? And don't get me wrong, I love my house, and it's beautiful, and we're building a pool and doing all these wonderful things, and it's the home that we've always dreamt of. But I am no more happy in this house than I was when I was in the 2-bedroom, crammed together, playing games, having a good time with my family, building memories. My kids have said multiple times, can we move back into the guest house? And I'm like, are you freaking crazy? This house is awesome, But that's what this is all about. No matter where you are in your journey of an entrepreneur, building your business, you have to find happiness. Find the path. Find the joy in the path that you're currently on, even if it's a struggle right now.
Yep.
If you've got somebody at home who loves you, if you've got someone who supports you, you've got something, right?
Yes.
If you've got money, and I'm going to put this in a different context, if you've got money and you've built something, you've got something, and you can do something good with it.
Yep.
If you're missing one of these pieces, then you can find that other part, and you can find those people, or you can find that money, you can work for it. And then it's all about coming together and really creating the life that we've all been dreaming of. The reason we didn't just start because we wanted millions of dollars. We started because we wanted freedom. We wanted to give our wives and our husbands everything that they wanted. We wanted to give our kids the life that they've always dreamt of. Like, this is why we did and started what we started. So remember that. I feel like sometimes we get our blinders put on. Yep. And we lose sight of that. So thank you guys for spending another time. SoTellUs Time with Trevor and Troy. And we really appreciate you guys. Share the podcast. Tell people about it. I hope you guys are just getting a wealth of knowledge from this. And we really appreciate all the emails and the phone calls. We had one of our clients just pop in the door the other day, and he was like, oh my gosh, I just listened to your podcast today and I just loved it. He had listened to the most recent podcast, and he's going, you were saying, I bet my listener. And he's going, that's me. And I love to hear that. That is exactly why we do what we do every single week for you guys. So we appreciate you. We love you. Thanks for being a part of the SoTellUs Time family. And we will catch you guys on the next episode next week.